We're here in the middle of summer. We got a sparkle in our eye. The vibes are high. We're still undefeated. That means it's time, even though the over-under is 5.5 for Michigan State football, it's time to wonder if 9-3 is possible. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in today to Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below what you would do. Yes, you would do for a 9-3 season this fall for your Michigan State Spartans because, guys, we're going to open up the mailbag here for a lot of questions in this episode. We're going to start there. We're going to go to see, hey, Aidan Chiles, if he was like Talia Tungavailoa, not Tua, but his younger brother Maryland, if we had that kind of a season, what would we think of that? And all sorts of football questions in between all that, though. But guys, before all that, there's housekeeping work, and that's not a pun to the housekeeping supplies that is around me. Yes, this is a road venue for Locked On Spartans, but the housekeeping at hand here. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get into the mailbag right now because batting first is going to be Trey, who has a very simple question that we will give a complex answer to, as we always do on this show. The question from Trey: what would 9-3 do for the program? God, if that doesn't get you excited for the season, I don't know what does. Who cares what the over-under is, right? For what seems like the 15th year in a row, right now for Michigan State, it's at 5.5. Yes, the schedule is a little easier than it was last year, but in this day and age of the Big Ten, you're never going to have a complete cakewalk of a schedule. But let's just dream. Let's just enjoy the summer vibes right now. And hey, think about what 9-3 would do for this program. Well, off the field, let's just start there. I mean, it would produce energy. That's right. We're going to go ahead and throw the E word out there right now, energy, which hasn't been felt around this program, honestly, guys, since the middle of the 2022 season. I know it's only 3-ish years on a calendar. It seems like an eternity since there was some juice in this program. And what this could do, 9-3 in year 2 of Jonathan Smith's tenure here at Michigan State. Well, who cares what us, the fans, feel like, you know? Hey, we would be happy. We would actually do something called Smile on Saturdays. But let's talk about the people that are actually important here. The transfers, the recruits, your own players. It would be so easy to sell this program to guys that are, hey, in the transfer portal, in the high school recruiting ranks, or guys, let's not kid ourselves, players that are on this current team that could very well have some options elsewhere. And this isn't just a Michigan State specific problem. This is a college football problem. But if you go, once again, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 4 years without a bowl game, where are we going? Where is the trajectory going? And it's not just making a bowl game, but if you are defiant and you go 9-3, if you start flirting with the college football playoff here, oh my goodness gracious. And of course it matters who the 9 wins are against. Like if you could pop Michigan, if you can get a win against Penn State, yeah, that's going to just make a statement that's going to echo through the whole college football landscape, and especially your locker room. So yes, everything off the field, it would also match what can happen on the field. Now, can it happen? This is where we're going to start to the conversation of, okay, really, can 9-3 actually happen this year? Because if you go to kfordrankings.com, which, we have Kelly Ford here on the show in a little bit. We had him on last offseason. Awesome guy to talk with. Does great work with a bunch of predictive analytics for college football. Now, with those predictive analytics, he gives Michigan State a whopping 1% shot for a 9-3 season. However, again, guys, we're in the episode of dreaming right now. He also says if a 9-3 season happens, you are in the college football playoff conversation. Now, that's not that's not just a complete Looney Tunes dream to have. If 9-3 goes on, that Michigan State would be at least in the conversation. Is it hard for a 3-win team to make it? Yes. You go back to the prior college football rankings, even before the 12-team format was introduced. it's very hard to see any 3-loss teams in the top 12. But here's what would help Michigan State is that they have the 20th hardest schedule on paper right now going into the season. So if you do have 9-3, you're not guaranteed to make it. But guys, sorry if this is loser talk. I just want to show up on these graphics, at least in November. Is that too much to ask for, that I just want to, feel a part of something as a Spartan fan for the first time in a long time? Well, 9-3 at least gets you trending closer to that big step of making the college football players. So, hey guys, let's all close them. Let's all close our eyes right now, okay? Because let's dream how this can happen, how a 9-3 season can happen here in East Lansing. Because, yes, it's a 1% shot is what the analytics are telling you. But, hey, that's why we play the games, because crazy things happen. So, everyone, close your eyes. We're going to break this up into 2 parts, okay? Part 1. Chapter 1 here. You win your first 3 games. They're all at Spartan Stadium. You're probably going to be favored in all of them. Western Michigan, you're already favored by 17. Boston College, you'll probably be favored by around 3-ish points. And then Youngstown State probably be favored by about 83 points. So let's say you go 3-0. That's the easy part of all this. And then you get one of your next 2 road games, USC and Nebraska. Okay? Can you be sitting at 4-1? And then you beat UCLA, bang, you are now 5-1. That was easy, right? Like you don't even have to close your eyes. You don't even have to take an extra shot of Fireball to let your mind get to such a far-fetched place. This is where part 2 happens. This is where we're really going to have to really believe. Get some pixie dust out, or any, I don't know, just low-grade drugs possibly. But anyway, there is a pathway to thinking that this could happen, because here's part 2. And you got to go 4-2 in this stretch, your back half of the season. And that stretch at Indiana, home against Michigan, at Minnesota, home against Penn State, but off of a bye week, at Iowa, Ford Field against Maryland. Guys, right now, that Maryland game is going to be the only one that you are favored in. Now, of course, things change throughout the duration of a season. A team can be a lot better. There could be injuries all over the place. The spreads will change here. But right now, in the here and now, Michigan State is only going to be favored against Maryland. Could they surprise Indiana on the road? Could they have a little bit of a fall off there in Kurt Cignetti's second year? Perhaps. Could you get Michigan? They're going to be at home. They got that freshman quarterback, replaced a lot of talent from last season, possibly. At Minnesota, yes, they have a very stout defense. That offense, though, that could very well make for a game that where it's the first team to 17 points is going to win that one. And same with the Iowa game, guys. Now, the home game against Penn State, even off of a bye week, I'm not sure necessarily about that one, but can you find 4-2 somewhere? Because that is your roadmap to a 9-3 season. So I did not say it was going to be easy. I think it's pretty clear. It's going to be tough. It's about a 1% shot. But you know what? Somewhere out there in the world, there's a 9-3 season here for Michigan State. And that's what it would mean. Guys, really quick before we get into the break here, there was some news that happened in the Big Ten today. They announced their Big Ten Media Day participants for each teams. Now, Media Days are going to take place in the Big Ten staple town. That's right. When you think about this town, you think Big Ten football. Las Vegas, Nevada, from July 22nd to July 24th. Michigan State will be speaking to the media on the 24th, and they are bringing linebacker Jordan Hall, wide receiver Nick Marsh, and then offensive tackle Stanton Rammel. So, at first glance, I see that there's no Aidan Chiles. I think that's interesting. Maybe. I don't know. Is it actually interesting? I looked around amongst all 18 Big Ten teams. 10 of them are not even bringing their quarterback to this thing. So if you want to look into it super heavily, if you just want to scrutinize everything, by all means, go for it. I don't think it's much to do about anything. He does enough media appearances during the fall, during the spring. So that's your 3-pack of players right there. Probably the captain of the defense, Jordan Hall, taking over at that linebacker position in the middle. Nick Marsh, one of the more spectacular players that you will see in this conference. And I thought Stanton Rammel was an interesting addition. But, man, big, important season for this left tackle going into his redshirt sophomore season. I do think this is interesting, though. Last year, it was Nathan Carter, Jack Velling, Dylan Tatum. Obviously, Dylan Tatum recruited out of high school. Jack Velling never even played a snap in a Michigan State uniform. And then Nathan Carter had a season under his belt, but he was a transfer from UConn. Whereas this year, all 3 of these guys were recruited to MSU as freshmen. So I just thought that was a little fun fact to throw in there. Guys, we're going to get to many more mailbag questions here in a hot segment. But first, need to talk your ears off about FanDuel. That's right, America's #1 sports book. Summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about the baseball under the lights, that's just like my Detroit Tigers taking care of business, golf on the green, high-stakes soccer action, whatever it is, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action so far this summer, like baseball, golf, soccer, everything we just named. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Hey, guys, or soaking up the strikeouts that Tarek Skubal had on Sunday night. They have all sorts of props for all sorts of players, whether it's the strikeout props. Okay, thank you, Mr. Skubal, for your services. Over under 8.5 strikeouts. Cash that ticket by the end of the fourth inning. Thank you. Also, home run parlays, the same game parlays, which I'd love to string together before the Tigers have their first pitch. And, guys, the greatest golf tournament of them all coming up, the storied John Deere Classic. Get into all the summer sports with FanDuel, guys. And if you're new to FanDuel, it gets even sweeter because new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open up the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, if you're a daily listener of Locked On Spartans, first of all, thank you very much. You guys are the best. Love every single one of you. Second of all, you know that we like ourselves a roller coaster here on this show a little bit. We are a yin and yang podcast. So, hey, all that happiness, all that optimism that we just got in the first segment, let's get some whiplash in the mix. And let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum here because we play both sides of the field. Jocks wrote in for this one. This is not a 9-3 season conversation. What do you think the goal Smith has to reach this season for J-Bat not to fire him and get one of his own guys in, maybe Georgia Tech's head coach Brent Key? Now, we've had this conversation before, even before J-Bat was hired, that, hey, this new athletic director, could this warm up the seat of Jonathan Smith here? Because, well, that's the most important coaching hire that an athletic department can make. Your football coach is the cornerstone of your department, okay? If football's not cooking, well, that's going to reflect on a lot of other programs that you have in your department here. So we had the conversation, and this is where we're going to start the conversation once again, is what the buyout number would be should they let go of Jonathan Smith at the end of this year. It would be about $33-ish million, which in this day and age of not just college sports, but sports in general, $33 million. Oh, you sneeze at that kind of money. But not really, actually. That is a significant chunk of change. That would be the second highest buyout of all time. That is still markedly behind Jimbo Fisher's buyout at Texas A&M when they shelled out, I think it was 72 or 74 million for him to not be on the sidelines at Aggieland anymore. They hated that man with a burning passion and have a lot of money down there. Anyway, it would be the second biggest buyout in college football history here. So what would it take for J-Bat to not just want to fundraise all that money just to get Jonathan Smith out of here and have him shipped in a FedEx box back to the west side of the country? Well, it starts with a very simple answer here, and this might just be the only answer. Show me actual progress. Show J-Bat actual progress. And this goes a lot of ways, guys, right? An offense that scores, I think, is one good place to start. Michigan State, back-to-back seasons, has an average 20 points per game. And look, it might sound silly, but there is a lack of sizzle around this program with the greater good of the fan base. Like right now, the people that are in the trenches caring about recruiting in the month of June, like us, these are the diehard fans. These are the sickos. But the majority of people that fill up Spartan Stadium, they don't really care about June recruiting. They want to see good things happen on a football field in September's in the fall. Excite those people. Get them something to come back to. If you're not winning, at least make these games exciting. And Michigan State, complete lack of excitement even in their losses in the last few years. So, hey, you're an offensive-minded coach. You brought over pretty much your whole offensive staff from Oregon State. Show a little bit of progress here. And this also zeroes in on one position, fair or not, but there's a lot of pressure on Aidan Chiles, not for just how Michigan State does this year, but also how Jonathan Smith will be viewed by this fan base. Jonathan Smith, you're a former quarterback. You're supposed to be this quarterback whisperer. Brian Lindgren, you're a good offensive mind. Hey, we actually brought in John Boyer, a quarterback-specific coach, to make Aidan Chiles as comfortable as he can possibly be. And we've all seen Aidan Chiles, guys, right? NFL talent arm. He's got the legs to extend plays and also pick up first downs on design runs. He is a great raw athlete. if Jonathan Smith, in year 2 of Aidan Chiles starting, can at least show that he is molding this great piece of quarterback clay that he's got, well, what is it? What does that say about the quarterback development? What does that say about the quarterback coaching? What's that going to say to recruits, transfers that are being brought in by Jonathan Smith? Like, hey, I got this great guy right here, Aidan Chiles. Everyone talks up and down about it. If anyone develops him, he'll be a great quarterback. If that doesn't happen, then what's the future of the program going to be? If you can't develop Aidan Chiles, then who are you going to develop here? So I know it's a lot to bring down to Aidan Chiles, but you got to see something out of just his play for the coaching staff to feel better about where they're at, and for the whole fan base in the athletic department to feel pretty good about where you are at too. And guys, you also have to absolutely see this in year 2 under Jonathan Smith. And this is a team that just gets to the finish line, ends the season playing all 12 games hard. You realize how simple and stupid of a statement that is, but it wasn't the case last year. And maybe we were a little nicer around the edges when it came to talking about this, is that at the end of the season, no one ever outright said that the team quit. But I remember the Aidan Chiles press conference after that Rutgers game, where he essentially said that I didn't necessarily feel the buy-in from every single person in that locker room at the end of the season. Now, the reason that maybe we were a little, not just, lashing out at the coach or, calling a bunch of people a bunch of names, is that, okay, when a new coach comes in, it's a long trial period. Yes, you retain a lot of your players from last year's roster, but these aren't the guys that committed to that coach necessarily. So maybe throughout the season, and you take some losses along the way, especially that middle stretch in October, beside the Iowa game, which was a lot of fun. But maybe, okay, the morale starts to get lessened. Coaches aren't vibing with players. Players aren't vibing with the new teammates that came over with the new staff. And it comes down to the culture, which may sound like a very simple cliche word, but there is something to having an established culture in the locker room just to get you to the finish line of a season. So year 2, if this happens again, if you're going into November again, if we are watching this game against Maryland at Ford Field and they look even more lifeless than a Terrapin team that routinely has quit on their season by the end of October, year in and year out, if we are again watching and listening to press conferences that are questioning the morale and the drive of the locker room, that cannot happen in year 2. So if you get all those, if you don't get production on offense, if you get a team that just doesn't look like they're doing much, and if recruiting also isn't picking up, and I bring that up too, because I don't think Jay Batt's an idiot. I don't think he's a dummy. I think he knows a lot about what makes football work. Go ahead and look at Georgia Tech's 2024 and 25 recruiting classes. Not too bad. Recruiting, even in the era of transfer portals in football, recruiting is still the lifeblood of college football and how good your roster can be. If once again that we're going to be outside the 30s, which I would expect for December, right now we're looking in the top 25, but a lot of teams are going to start adding more commits, more 4-star talent. Or Michigan State, yes, our class is fine, content about it, but they're going to get slotted outside the top 30s. If 2027's class even starts to look maybe that's where you can start wondering, okay, well, is there going to be a hot seat whatsoever at the end of this year? Do I think any of this happens? Do I think that there will be actual danger to Jonathan Smith's seat? Right now, as we record at the end of June, no, I'm hopeful for year 2. Do I think it will be 9-3? No. Do I think it'll be 7-5 with tangible differences from last year? Yes, I do. He's shown it at Oregon State. Hopefully he gets show the next step of this building block here in year 2 in East Lansing. David writes in a solid question here, a question on the top of a lot of people's minds, and this is not the last time we will get to a topic like this offseason. But David writes in, we saw lots of young players getting reps last year, whether it had to be position or injury or garbage time. Out of those players, who will be the most impactful next season? So amongst the young guys that got some good playing time last season, or maybe not even good playing time, but just any shred of playing time on offense, it's pretty cut and dry and simple. On offense, it's Brandon Tullis, Makhi, Frazier, your 2 running backs, right? That will maybe be behind Elijah Tolliver. Anyway, to slice it, those guys, 7 carries each last year, they're going to have to make a big difference. Rakeem Johnson, who got some good experience as an offensive lineman against Oregon, against Ohio State. I don't think he's going to start this year, but hey, this is one of the benefits of the offensive line going into this fall, is there's a lot of experience in the depth behind the starters. Rakeem Johnson, one of those young bucks that got a ton of experience last year. So the pride of Idaho, yes, he is on that list. Now, the defense gets a little interesting here because there's a lot of moving parts, guys, right? We're talking departures, whether a Ben just ran out of eligibility or they transferred out. There's going to be a lot of new faces on this defense, or a lot of faces that you might see as familiar because maybe you're one of those sickos that still watched this season at the end of the year last year. But we're talking guys like Marcellius Pulliam, Brady Pretzlaff. Marcellius Pulliam, he was a transfer from Miami. Brady Pretzlaff from Gaylord, Michigan, okay? I mean, this is a kid that was recruited by Joe Rossi, a great pickup for the class last year. Now, these two guys played around 50 snaps combined. But there's no Jordan Turner. There's no Cal Halliday. Right now, your linebackers are Wayne Matthews, Jordan Hall, and then I imagine it's going to be these two guys battling for that last spot, perhaps the strong side linebacker spot of Marcellius Pulliam and Brady Pretzlaff. Maybe Samaj Bridgman as well. He did not play last year. It was an injury issue with him, but he's another guy, former four-star, transferred from that school down the road. But yeah, it's going to be a three-horse race for defense. Now, Marcellius Pulliam, solid experience. Brady Pretzlaff, actually, even in his very short stint on defense, Pro Football Focus really enjoyed him. They gave him a high ranking. But it's not just the linebacker position that's going to have a lot of young guys hopefully jockeying for some snaps here. Because I think that possibly Justin Denson can be another one of these chess pieces here. Now, Justin Denson, he plays in a position which is just secondary because it seems like there's no longer like cornerbacks, safeties, and nickels. Like right now with Joe Rossi, it just seems like you are just a secondary player, right? And Justin Denson kind of embodied that last season. He played 150 snaps all over the defense. We're talking box safety, free safety, played some nickel. So in 7 games, I mean, and this includes, 29 plus snaps against Ohio State and Oregon. He got 50 snaps against Rutgers. Look, does he start this season? I think I'd be a little surprised. Maybe don't rule him out for that starting nickel position. But right now, your safeties are Malik Spencer, Nikai Martinez. Your cornerbacks are going to be Joshua Eaton, Malcolm Bell, maybe Najee Burt, perhaps Chance Rucker on the outside looking in. But the nickel could be Justin Denson. I think it might be Najee Burt or Malcolm Bell, but please, it's not like there's anyone that's set in stone. Whoever's going to be in that 2 deep is never going to get on the field. I think we're going to see a good rotation here to start the season. But it also could be Tracy Revels, the guy that transferred in from Bowling Green, played a lot as a freshman last year. So, yeah, there's going to be no shortage of options for where Justin Denson can play, or also guys that can play those same positions too. And also, I just wanted to give one more name too. Just played 5 snaps. I'd be lying to you if I said that I do remember all 5 of this kid's snaps. But Kike Burnett, freshman last season, edge guy from the great state of Hawaii. Now, the reason we're bringing his name up is that he was the top-rated guy on Pro Football Focus, even with just 5 snaps. And, of course, that's kind of like an arbitrary ranking system. But we bring him up because let's not kid ourselves. And we all know this as Michigan State fans. There's no shortage of guys that can show out here on that edge in the pass rush. It's up for grabs. Anyone that wants to play this position to give us any semblance of life, just please go ahead and do so. So, yes, Kike Burnett coming in hot with 5 snaps of momentum. But, hey, will he get some run to start the year? I think so. I think anyone that is a defensive end or an edge will be getting their fair share of opportunity to start the season here. Now, Steven writes in a question. We're going to go back to the Aidan Chiles conversation. Now, he wrote this question in to lockedonspartans@gmail.com. The 2025 football season may determine Aidan Chiles' trajectory for the rest of his career. His base level of talent should put him above the average quarterback in the Big Ten. However, do you think it's fair to say that right now he's comparable to Little Tua? Now he's talking about Taulia Tagovailoa, the Maryland quarterback who finally ran out of eligibility after 17 years in College Park. Anyway, and we're going to find out within the first few games if he remains Taulia or develop into a Tua, the guy that obviously was great at Alabama. Bonus question. Are we disappointed if he's about the same quarterback as Taulia, the Maryland quarterback? He got Maryland to new heights in the Big Ten, and it was entertaining to watch. I gotta say, I feel like Baby Tua gets a bad rap because is it crazy to say he was a great player, all things considered, at Maryland? I mean, I know he was never invited to New York for a Heisman ceremony, but he was on some all Big Ten teams. And just like our emailer Steven said, he made Maryland football relevant, albeit with a lowercase r at times, but relevant at least, which when's the last year or decade that's even happened? So last year, I mean, Tua put up the stat line, it seemed like every year at Maryland, but last year just a little over 3,300 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and then 5 more rushing touchdowns. Now, Talia didn't, have the strong legs like Aidan Chiles had. Those rushing touchdowns came most of the time in quarterback sneak situations. It wasn't like he was this true dual threat quarterback the way Aidan Chiles was. But man, would you take 3,300 yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions from Nick Marsh? I would take that from Nick Marsh this year. That'd be a lot of receiving yards for him. But let's talk about Aidan Chiles, the guy who I'm supposed to talk about. Would we take that for Aidan Chiles? I think so. I'd have to see what else he does with his legs. Like, could he get up to 8 rushing touchdowns? Could he get you somewhere in the ballpark from 30, 40, 50 rushing yards a game, for example, in Big Ten play? I think so, but yeah, I can see it happening. And that just seems like a very real stat line, too, because I could very well see him throwing 2 touchdowns a game to get up to 25 touchdowns. Can he still get up to 11 interceptions, whether we liked it or not? Yes, I always think that there will be that risk-taking area of his game. So I could see it, and would we take it? If it gets us to like 8-4, yeah, I don't think that'd be the worst thing in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Whether it's email lockdownspartans@gmail.com or down in the comment section, just please correct me if you think that I'm crazy for just agreeing to that. I think that's a very, very generous stat line that you can be happy with. All right, guys, last question here, and we actually just got this before we started recording, so thank you, Nicholas. Again, lockdownspartans@gmail.com. With the return of college basketball in a few years being announced, he's talking about the new basketball video game being announced in a few years. I'm curious, if you could play as any team since the last game in 2009, which team would you pick? And same for football, 2015 to 2023 is a time frame for that. So it has been 15-ish years, a little over 15 years since the last college basketball video game has come out. So who would I play with? I did not think long for this answer. No, it's not a Cassius Winston team. No, it's not last year's team. I'm going to go with a team that I actually got to cover when I was with the State News back in my college days at Michigan State. The 2013-14 Michigan State basketball team for 2 big reasons. One, I think that'd be a lot of fun to play with that team. Adrian Payne, Gary Harris, Brandon Dawson, Travis Trice, Matt Costello, Keith Appling, like that. That is just a fun, talented team to play with. And the second reason I would play with that team is to reach the stage that they never did, which was, regular season Big Ten title. They were absolutely banged up that entire year, but they finally got healthy, made a run to the Elite Eight, and that's the infamous game where they were up, I think it was 8 points at halftime, and then Shabazz Napier head fakes his way to the free throw line about 1,000 times. Keith Appling couldn't throw the ball in the ocean if he was standing on the beach. Dan Chapman outscored him in that game. It was so loud at Madison Square Garden. It was a full-fledged home game for UConn. Yeah, I'm still salty about the whole thing. I would be that team to bring them to the Final Four and win the eventual national championship, which they would have done that year if they didn't collapse in the second half. Now here I am on a nice, beautiful summer day, about to cry over a game that happened 11 years ago. Anyway, for football, this is what I would do. I'd play with the 2018 Michigan State team because I am wholly convinced I could have done a much, much better job running the offense than Dave Warner. You had one of the best defenses, not in the Big Ten, but in the entire God-blessed country. And that's how that season went. I would be the 2018 Michigan State Spartans because, I'm just going to put points on the board. Something Michigan State had no interest in that year. Sad way to end such a positive starting podcast, let me tell you guys that. But hey, such is life here in Locked On Spartans. We go through all spectrums of emotion here. Guys, we will be back later on this week. We are going to hammer home our Michigan State athlete quarter-century Mount Rushmore. I'm going to have the link in the description to this episode, so go ahead and get your votes in. We are getting pretty close to 1,000 votes, so thank you very much for everyone that has already cast their ballot. We're going to get to that, and then also a little bit of a crossover episode soon with Locked On Magic. That's right, Jace Richardson's new home. We're going to talk about Jace, what we can expect out of him in Orlando. It was a great chat with our guy Philip of Locked On Magic here. But guys, until then, take care of yourselves. Love you all.